All right, we are so close to the return of the NBA season, but since we still have a little bit over a month to go, there's really nothing to talk about at this point in the offseason. I thought about doing a video on all the 2K ratings that have been released, but I got to be honest with you guys, I can't even in good faith pretend like I care about this stuff. I like Evan Mobley isn't even in the top 10 for block rating. Like Jonathan Isaac and some other no-name guys are ahead of him. It's so absurd. It's so obviously rage bait that I'm like, I don't even care. Instead, I figured we're going to talk about this Jeff Teague podcast today because we got to talk about something, right? And so I want to focus on this clip that came from Jeff Teague's podcast where they had a chatter ask them the question, who's better right now, Bam Adebayo or Evan Mobley? And while I think the answer to this is pretty straightforward, right? Like, obviously, I'm a little biased, but I think maybe a year ago, this would have been an interesting question. But now, in the year 2025, Mobley has come such a long way that it's not even disrespect to Bam, but I just don't think this is really much of a discussion. But not only did this podcast choose Bam over Mobley in the present day, but Jeff Teague took it as far as to say that Bam has more potential than Evan Mobley, which is pretty crazy to me. So he said he believes Mobley is probably already as good as he's going to get. Basically, he's already hit his ceiling while Bam still has more to go. I'm going to go ahead and play the clip so you can hear it for yourself, and then we'll talk about it.
This year, they're a contender. The Heat going to be a contender this year.
The Heat? I'm nothing.
I like them. I mean, in addition to Norman Powell, I think Bam going to take a leap. And then Tyler Herro got a little bit of – he got a little chip on his shoulder.
Pound wig out, bro.
Yeah, I just think Bam can go to another level that Evan Mobley can't, just because of physicality.
And the skill level to me too.
Yeah.
I like Bam more, so I'm with you.
Bam can be Giannis in a different kind of way.
Okay, so first off, I don't think Giannis is a great comparison for anybody, not only because Bam and Evan Mobley are just completely different players from Giannis, but because Giannis is like one of one in terms of player development. Like, you can't just project someone to become the next Giannis. That doesn't happen. Giannis wasn't even supposed to be the player that he is today. And so I think we can mostly throw out this part of the discussion, but I did bring it up because I want to point out that Jeff Teague said Mobley has already hit his ceiling. But Bam, in his opinion, can play like Giannis next season, and the Miami Heat are going to be title contenders. That's a real take that he just dropped. Bam and Giannis are almost the same age. If you didn't know, just to be clear, Bam is 28 and Giannis is 30. Giannis had already won 2 MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year, and a championship by the time he was 26. Bam hasn't done any of that, and that's no disrespect to him, but the foundation of this take was already ludicrous, right? And then the idea that Evan Mobley, who just had his breakout season, by the way, first-time All-Star, first-time All-NBA player. He had a career best year by basically every mark at just 23 years old. The idea that that guy, who also, by the way, just won Defensive Player of the Year as well, that guy has already hit his ceiling. But Bam Adebayo, who, again, great player, he's accomplished many great things in his own right. But the notion that Bam at 28 has more potential than Mobley, who just turned 24, this is kind of wild, right? And I want to focus this entirely on Mobley now because can't say it enough. It's the last time I repeat it. None of this is disrespect towards Bam. In all honesty, I'm not even trying to clown on Jeff Teague too much because really using this clip was just an excuse for me to talk about Mobley in a different way. But when we break it down, Mobley, as I mentioned, he just turned 24 this summer. And right now we're in an interesting spot because if you remember this time last year, we were all wondering, is Evan Mobley ever going to make the leap? And well, I wouldn't really say we were all wondering. You know, some people, myself and other people included, were still feeling pretty confident even last year, but it was certainly an open-ended question. The leap hadn't happened yet as of last year, but now we've seen the leap. And it was a pretty good leap, I'd say. He improved basically every single area you would have wanted to see Evan Mobley improve. The three-point shooting, he shot a career high, and he made 3 times as many threes as he had ever made in the season before that. The ball handling, we saw him grab and go off of rebounds. He's pushing in transition, running the floor, creating for himself from the elbow at a career high rate. Mobley last season scored about 35% of his points unassisted, meaning he created those points for himself. That was a career high mark. The defense, I think, improved as well. Obviously, he won Defensive Player of the Year, but I thought you could just tell that he's getting more comfortable and assertive with using his body weight. He's gained quite a bit of muscle since entering the league, and I think the biggest area that he's improved at in terms of defense is rebounding. The Cavs last year were in the 78th percentile in defensive rebounding when Evan Mobley was on the floor. That means lineups with Mobley on the court were in the top 22% of the NBA for defensive rebounding. And before last season, Mobley really wasn't having that much of an impact on the glass. All right, the Cavs The year before that, we're in the bottom 17th percent of the league in rebounding. And in Mobley's rookie year, they were in the 7th percentile. So they really stunk before this. And I thought Mobley, the added weight, the added muscle, being a little more physical, a little more aggressive, it really showed itself on the defensive end and especially in rebounding. But above all of that, I thought Mobley showed that he can play the center position without any trouble, which was a huge breakthrough. Right now, according to Cleaning the Glass, it'll show you that Mobley's point differential has kind of always been better when he's at center versus playing power forward. I'll be honest with you here. This is where, to me, you have to balance the advanced stats with your eye test, because I would not have agreed that Mobley was better at center during his first 2 years in the league, and even just 2 years ago, right? Like, I think you could argue that he started to find more success in the 23-24 season when he was at center, especially in the playoffs against Boston. But last year, this most recent season, to me, this was the first time that Mobley truly excelled at the center position for the first time. It's also the first time in his career where he actually played more minutes at center than at power forward. Over 50% of Mobley's minutes were at center last season. That was a career high. And so I'm highlighting all of this because, yes, no one would deny that Mobley took a huge step forward last season in basically every way. The question at hand is, how much better can he get? What is his ceiling? And I think Jeff Teague said this in the full clip as well. Mobley, he can definitely get better as a three-point shooter. That's something that we all point to as, like, he can clearly refine this as he gets older. Right now, Mobley last season, he was a guy who could occasionally punish teams for leaving him open, right? He became a respectable three-point shooter, but not someone who's going to demand serious attention, right? He's not a player who you want seeking his three-point shot too often, and that will probably always be the case because he's 7 foot and he's so lethal in the paint that you don't want him to become too three-point happy. But if Evan Mobley's able to turn into a legit floor spacer who can get some actual defensive attention, then all of a sudden the entire floor opens up to him in a brand new way. And the same thing goes for his handling. Mobley has slowly but surely improved as a ball handler throughout his career, but the more comfortable and capable that he can get as a playmaker, then that's the more usage you'll be able to throw his way, right? And that's the big thing here, right? You're probably not going to see Mobley averaging 24 points like some people have called for, right? He's just not in a position to do that right now. The Cavs, they have 2 other high-volume guards who are going to average about 20 points themselves. So for Mobley, I wouldn't expect much more than 18 to 22 points per game, somewhere within that range, because there's only so many touches to go around. But the statistics aren't that important, is the point that I'm trying to make here. The important thing is going to be his impact on winning and how far the Cavs can go in the postseason. And it's funny because I think you could say the same thing about Bam throughout his entire career. Like, Bam hasn't put up anything crazy in terms of his numbers or his averages, but it's always been about his impact on winning and his performances in the playoffs. And right now for Mobley, we're all focusing on the same thing, right? Nobody cares if he averages 24 points per game next season. What we want to see is the Cavs compete for a title, and maybe you might think Mobley needs to average 24 for the Cavs to win a championship, but I don't really think so. I don't think it has to be that way. He needs to be more aggressive. Sure, I agree with that. I think the Cavs need to stop him from being freezed out of the offense, but to me, the Cavs are built in a way where you need each piece of the puzzle to step up at the appropriate time if they're going to get to the finals. I don't think it's going to be one player dragging them over the finish line. It has to be a team effort where maybe you get Donovan Mitchell carrying for a game. Maybe Mobley and Allen dominate a game. Maybe it's Darius Garland who goes off one night, but that's their path to a title. I don't think you're getting there on the back of one player anymore. You have to do it as a team with guys stepping up at the appropriate time, and Evan Mobley is obviously one of the most important pieces to that. And so tying all this together, Mobley right now has already shown that he can make a leap. He did it last year. He's got numerous ways in front of him in which he can continue to improve. And he's on a team that should be competing for titles for at least the next season, if not more. And so the road forward is just full of so much potential for Evan Mobley, not only to improve as a player, but also to accomplish a lot of things with his team. And with all due respect to Bam, again, the Miami Heat, they've just kind of hit a dead end. I don't really see the way forward for them as contenders. Bam's already in the middle of his prime as well, while Mobley, by most typical standards, is probably 3 or 4 years away from reaching his peak. And so this whole thing is a little bit silly. I don't think it's really that much of a discussion. There really wasn't much to say here. I just need an excuse to rant about the Cavs for 10 minutes. So thank you to everyone who watched. Make sure you subscribe and drop a like as we get closer to the upcoming season. With all that being said, go Cavs.